Hello everyone, welcome back to Football-Oranje, your home of Dutch football in English language. I'm Michael Statham and I'm joined by Ricky. Ricky, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Michael. Lovely to be on the show. My name's Ricky, obviously, and I'm the host and creator of the Last Word on Spurs podcast.
Great to have you back. If people remember, you were on our show to talk about the test way back when Spurs played the test in the Conference League. So obviously this time Europa League, AZ Spurs, and yeah, it's a clash again that I think Spurs fans will be going, oh, what about RZ? So of course we're going to talk about the Dutch side, and we'll have people on our side be interested in how Van der Ven's getting on for you, and also your thoughts on Troy Parrott and the game itself, what you know about RZ. So shall we start there? And Ricky, what do Spurs fans think about RZ and the competition as a whole?
Well, I've got to say, Michael, and it's not your fault, I went from the Disney Heights the last time I was on here. I went from the Champions League to the Conference League, and I went back in the Europa League. So I've done the full circle, and here I am back again after revisiting all the competitions in Europe. But yeah, just on your point there, look, I think for Spurs fans going into the game, there'll be an air of uncertainty, really, if I'm going to be honest with you, because it has been a while since we've been in the Europa League. And I think, look, the general consensus is that all the teams that are up against are good teams. They're all experienced European sides. They've got pedigree in competition. So I don't think we take any game lightly. But at the same time, I feel these games are an opportunity to continue to build momentum, really. Because I think a lot of Spurs fans feel that the Europa League is a competition that we should be taking seriously. It is, dare I say, a winnable competition. And therefore, it means that you can't underestimate any of the opponent in there. We've had a fairly good start so far, 6 points out of a possible 6. I think we all know, look, you win your home games, then, look, if you're going to cut the points away, then you're pretty much all but there. So for Spurs, they'll probably feel like if they do manage to beat, of course, AZ on Thursday, then I wouldn't say they've got 1 foot in the next stage of the competition, but they're on their way to doing so. So, look, I don't think they'll underestimate them. We'll touch on Troy Parrott, I'm sure, in terms of the fact that he's going to be returning to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So, wouldn't want to take them lightly. I know we've discussed off air about the fact they're on a currently 4-game winless run at the moment, but many would say Dr. Tottenham are in town for them, which might do them a favour. So, yeah, a game that I wouldn't want to underestimate, but at the same time, Spurs will definitely make some changes for this one with a game against Palace on the Sunday.
Sure. I mean, from Isaac's point of view, I feel like watching them a lot over the years, that kind of side that if you were to compare to an English side, you're putting them between a Premier League and Championship bracket where they're really good technically, but maybe don't have that rough and tumble to really see out a result against an English side. So I think that's where they're going to find it difficult with defending and seeing out a result if they're going ahead, or if it's going to a draw late on in the game. They'll want to take that, of course. For me, a big difference is having watched Twente play away at Man United already in this competition. Twente are a very similar level to RZ, so they've got a bit of technical ability about them. I think Twente are better defensively. RZ will have more technical ability there, keep the ball really, really well. But Twente are playing really spirited football at United, and Spurs are better than United. We can say that safely here. But I think that's where RZ will come unstuck. It will be those real wave after wave of Spurs attacks. I think they're going to find it hard to keep out. It's my gut feeling. At the weekend, they played against PSV, but it's a hard one to compare with because they went down to 10 men really quickly. And then PSV was just kind of walk over the game. Isaac came back to it late in the game, so showed a bit of fight, but wasn't enough. Before that, they in the Europa League, they'd beaten a Swedish side at home 3-2. It was a close game than Isaac fans would have wanted. And then a defeat away at Atletico Bilbao. So no disgrace in that. But again, they were seeing out a 0-0 for a long time in the game. They lost 2-0 late on. They've started the season with a few wins, quite narrow 1-0s. And I think people may have seen a 9-1 win make headlines. Troy Parrott scored 4 goals. It was a monster win in the Eredivisie. And he's only scored 1 more since then. So should we touch upon Troy Parrott? He was someone that came for the Spurs Academy, was given a big name. And has come to RZ. Many strikers and players have come to the Eredivisie to kind of make a name for themselves. I'm really pleased that someone who, say, speaks English. He's not British, of course, he's Irish, but coming to the Eredivisie and making a career in a different country, real big props to him for doing that. He says he wants to settle down, play a few years here, and play for the Irish national team. I can see him doing that, I really can. As for him making it back to Spurs one day, I mean, my personal opinion, I don't think he quite has enough yet, anyway, to show me that he could do that step. But certainly to make a good career for himself at RZ. Talks about Troy Parrott and what you remember of him and what you'd be worried about, I guess, with him coming back to Spurs.
Well, look, we're always worried when we're playing against ex-players. They always seem to find a way of making a difference and having an impact on the game. But, I mean, look, Troy, obviously, during his time at Spurs, I think the one word probably sum up would be frustrating, because there was an element around Troy that definitely we got a young prospect that, in all truly, Mike just needs game time. And, game time, we may have seen, the best of Troy to some degree in a Spurs shirt. I think the argument was that he was really the kind of revelation, the sensationist young player up and coming. And unfortunately for Troy, what happened is he came in at a period where Spurs had a magnitude of injuries to Kane and Son at the time, and almost was forced into the team really by the fans willing Jose Mourinho to give him a chance. And I never forget, obviously, that Jose did give him that opportunity. And one of those opportunities was a game where Spurs went out on penalties in a cup domestic clash in which Jose said, look, he's just not ready. And I think, if anything, we kind of forced to see him to the point, because it just felt under Jose maybe that young players weren't maybe getting too many of an opportunity. And that was a crazy period, obviously, during COVID, where, as we all know, football was a little bit crazy during that period. And Spurs had a magnitude of injuries. But, I mean, before that, really, look, Troy was a young player that was excelling really in the youth academy and was scoring hatfuls, to be quite honest with you. And that clamour was growing week after week, maybe season after season, about when are we going to see this young player explode onto the scenes. And I think it's fair to say that in the opportunities Troy had in a Spurs shirt, we never quite got to see the player that was excelling so much for the youth. So I'm sure, like I said, when we let him go, we wished him all the very, very best. I think there maybe was some element of surprise that Ange didn't take another look at him, to be honest with you, and they may have let him go out on loan. But obviously Spurs got opportunities to get quite a sizable fee for him. There wasn't too many takers, I don't think, at the time for Troy that would have offered that kind of fee. And credit to him, because at the end of the day, he earned his move. And look, to be fair, he could have easily wanted to stay and be part of Spurs and sit on the bench, but he wants to play regular first-team football. And I admire any player that's going to go outside their comfort zone to a different country to go and try that in a different, of course, league. So, look, I wish him all the very, very best, apart from, obviously, when he faces Tottenham. And again, it's one of those players that, although, like I say, he hasn't had maybe the greatest start, apart from the fact he's got a 4-goal glut of a game, you never know with players. We've seen this a lot at Tottenham, that, if someone had told me when I saw Harry Kane first come through that he was going to go on to become, a world-class superstar, I wouldn't have believed you. He didn't look like it. So I'm very, very reluctant to call on a player at the moment and say whether they're good or not, especially in Troy's case, where he's so young and he's still developing and he's in a new league with a new squad, with a new manager to some degree of who he's been working under. So, look, I wish him all the very, very best. And I think that kid has definitely got something inside of him where he wants to succeed and has got a passion to do so. So I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, he's someone that I think is really here to just to get down, work hard, and prove some people wrong, I think, as well.
Absolutely.
He wants to get into the Irish national team, and I think he will do that. He's like a poacher, but also has playing the last shoulder. He's not a physical target man, but can get in the box a few headers. He did score some for Excelsior last season. I think what he needs now next is a bit of strength, a bit of size if he can, and but also still keeping that part of his game where he's on the last shoulder and he is getting the box to score goals. He had the most touches in the Eredivisie in the penalty area, so I think his fortunes will change. Those 4 goals in the game was not really a big surprise. I felt like that was coming. So fingers crossed for him, it keeps coming for the goals. With Troy Parrott, then obviously you need good service to play up front as a striker, and outside on the wide areas, AZ Alkmaar have got Ruben van Bommel, son of Mark van Bommel. Very different player to Mark van Bommel, more unassuming, quite quiet player, left-footed, left winger, is good for getting in the box to score goals. On the right wing, it could be Ibrahim Sadiq if he's fit. Ghanaian winger, had a really good start to the season. Another one is proving doubters wrong with better output. You like to see Sven Meinens as well, playing an attacking midfield. Number 10, another left-footer who can weave in and out, good on the ball. So I think that front four could cause a few problems for Spurs if they can get that far up the pitch and keep the ball long enough. There will be times where I think on the ball they'll keep it long enough to cause a few problems, ask a few questions of Tottenham. Jordi Classes in midfield. He's a former Southampton player, really quite tidy, good on the ball. In goal, you'll probably see Owusu Adoro as he Dutch youth international. very young keeper. And in defence, Maxim Decker might play. Wouter Hus might if he becomes fit, but I think we'll see Decker there instead next to Penetra. There's a handful of players in this RZ team that have played in the UEFA Youth League, so the Champions League for young players, if you like. Yeah. And they won the competition a couple of years back, I think it was now. Decker was part of the side. Hus, Owusu Aduro, Van Bommel wasn't part of that side. A couple more that are on the bench. Pierre Coat Miners, who's brother of Turncoat Miners. So they've got young, promising players. But the thing is, with young, promising players, they make mistakes. And RZ has shown that already this season, winning a few games. Start with great, but now there's 4 defeats in a row, and you're like, oh, well, we know who's gonna turn this around. Is it going to be a promising performance against Spurs, or is this going to be another? Oh, we're on another losing streak here. The first goal's gone in, the heads might drop. I don't know. I don't think RZ will be embarrassed. I think they'll put up a good fight. Like you said beforehand, maybe RZ got a chance of scoring a goal against Spurs, but you know, you just got too much quality, right? Do you not just feel confident with the amount of goals that you score? You can steamroll teams.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. Yeah, we do have. Listen, we have got quality players in there. I mean, the reality is, though, Spurs are going to have a change of side. You know, they've got Palace on Sunday, so the reality is that Andrew's going to have to give the players like, Werner a chance. That's currently splitting the fan base, to be honest, to some degree in terms of his performances and obviously output in terms of goals at the moment. That just haven't been there. Archie Correa, I presume, will be given an opportunity. Lucas Bergvall will probably play. I think Radu Dragusin may still be suspended for this one. He was sent off in a straight red for the incident against Karabag. So the thing that I think will give AZ hope is that Spurs will be making changes. So it won't be their first 11. However, having said that, these are players that are coming that want to push towards giving Ange a headache for the Premier League squad. There's no doubt about that in terms of his first 11 in there. So, look, I mean, to be honest, so far, it's been a good start, 6 out of 6. As we know, if Spurs win their home games, then there's a great opportunity to get qualified earlier rather than later. But as I've said to you off air, I said it on air as well now, that, there will definitely be opportunities for AZ in this game. They may just feel if they can hang in there, frustrate Tottenham and, dare I say, pound the counter, then there will be goals for them. There is with Tottenham. We saw it the weekend with West Ham, where they won that game 4-1. Spurs are always susceptible at the moment when it comes to, as we've seen on the counter. And, they have had a better defensive record than last season, but it does feel that with Spurs, definitely that you'll be given at least an opportunity during the game to take an opportunity. And that will be the case of how clinical will AZ be on the evening itself to make that happen. But so far, like I say, it's been a decent start to the qualifying campaign for Spurs. They've, like I say, got the achievable points that they could have done so far. And I'm intrigued to see how Spurs do approach this game, because you've rattled off a number of players there that do seem very technically gifted players. And look, they'll enjoy the fact of coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. There's no doubt about that. It's a great place to play. And look, it's a statement place to go and win, isn't it? I'm sure any player that goes and wants to play in that stadium just ups their game by an extra 10%. And you know what it's like, as you saw at Mike for the 20 Manchester United game. When you're playing English opposition, for some reason, players do operate on a bit of a higher level. They give their maximum because they're playing on the stage where they want to impress the most. And I'm not saying that they want to search and seek for a move elsewhere, but it's a great opportunity to put yourself on the world stage and play well. So definitely not going to be going into this one underestimating AZ, but with Spurs having the home advantage, given obviously the recent form from AZ, I'd like to think Spurs have got enough, but they will make changes for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming on to your prediction just a moment, Micky. Before I do, Micky van der Ven, do you think he won't play this one? Do you think he'll be rested? Talk to us about him and how he's been getting on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you, Mike, when we got him, there was, I think, an air of excitement, but at the same time, a reluctantness to go too overboard because, it's like when players you're signing from overseas, you're not quite sure how they'll adapt to the Premier League. But biggest comment I can play Micky is that it looks like he's been here for years. I do worry about how long his hamstrings they can carry on operating the way they are, because he's getting through a lot of, mileage when it comes to having to travel up and down the pitch. And to be fair to him, without him, I don't think Spurs can actually play the way Ange wants to. That's the biggest compliment I can pay to him, because he's having to cover really the width of the 6-yard box by allowing Porro and obviously respectively a doggy on the other side to bomb on, which means there's a lot of space in there for Romero and Van der Ven to cover. Look, I mean, to be fair, I can count you on one hand how bad Micky has been in terms of performances. That's how good he's been in a Spurs shirt. So will he play? I imagine he probably will, because I think Ange and the way he wants to play needs Micky in there. He's quite integral to the system. But we have got a massive game against Palace on the Sunday. That's not to do down the AZ game, but I think, like I say, we had this issue around Dragashin recently where he got sent off against Karabag, who, again, with him, he does need game time because, again, his rustiness showed in that game because of, again, the lack of Premier League game time. But I think, again, Dutch opponent, Micky facing a Dutch team, maybe he will give Micky an opportunity. But, again, I wouldn't be massively surprised if he's rested for this one. But, yeah, I mean, look, there's lots of games coming up for Spurs thick and fast. They've got, of course, Carabao Cup next week with Man City in there. We then revert back to the Europa League the week after. So, yeah, on Micky, very, very impressed. Amazing defender. If he carries on the trajectory that he's on at the moment, Mike, I can't lie to you that I'll be concerned if we can keep hold of him. And that's not to be negative. I just think players like that are so, so good. I can't believe that the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man City, Juventus, these clubs are looking at defenders like this because what they allow you to do is completely change the way you're playing because he's got the ability to allow you to really stretch play and push right on up the pitch. He's that special. So, yeah, hope we can keep hold of him, especially with these rumours around Romero at the moment, long-term about his contract. And, yeah, Micky's a fabulous defender.
Great. Good news for Dutch football fans in general there. That there's someone who's already on the fringes of that Dutch national team who's given a start of the day since
matter of time. I mean, I honestly think this time next season, next year, he'll be a regular in the Dutch team. He is that good, and he gives the manager so many options. So I'll be amazed if he's not a mainstay in that team in a year's time for the Dutch national team.
Heard it here first. Well, Ricky, I've got to get a prediction from you then from this game. You've given more hope as this has gone on. I recorded an audio clip for your podcast beforehand, and I said 3-0 Spurs. I don't think I'm thinking 3-0 Spurs anymore.
Well, I can tell you, you're definitely going to score, Mike. I'll be stunned if you don't score. Having said that, we did keep a clean sheet against Karabag, which I didn't expect, to be honest with you, given the nature of Spurs and their lack of clean sheets. I think in the Premier League, they've only had one in their last 18, which shows you just, how hard Spurs have found clean sheets to come by. I will probably sound this one, given the form of AZ at the moment. I'll probably edge it and say a 2-1 Spurs win, possibly 3-1, but I'll say 2-1. But I think it will be a close game. I think AZ will want to come and have a game plan and won't, give Spurs too many opportunities. I think they've seen, obviously, with Spurs, the big thing about Tottenham is they score their goals in kind of, how do I put it, gluts, where they get 3 in the space of 18 minutes like they did recently against West Ham. And, that's what Tottenham are like as a team. So AZ can't afford, if they do concede one, to let their heads drop because they will get opportunities during the game. But maybe from a quality perspective, even though Spurs are making some changes, there may just be a little bit too much quality and home advantage to count.
Yeah, hopefully I was surprised us, but from a Dutch football perspective, but I do think it'll be a 3-1 win for Spurs. I'll go with that and we'll see how we get on with it. Just before we go, I think if there are any Spurs fans watching this, we did actually do an interview with Micky van der Ven. It was his first one in English when he played for FC Volendam. So if you want to go back in time a little bit and watch a bit of Micky van der Ven, then do go back and check it out. It's a good one. It's about when he doesn't speak English too well, as he admits to. But anyway, thank you, Ricky. Thanks for joining us. So last word on Spurs podcast, if anyone didn't know that already, and we're Football-Oranje, Dutch football in English language. So yeah, thanks for checking us out, and go and check Ricky out as well if you want to check out a bit of Spurs. But yeah, thanks, Ricky. I hope you enjoyed it.
My pleasure, Mike. Lovely catching up with you. Been a long time. So yeah, I'm sure we'll see each other very, very soon. Really appreciate it.
Small meetings between Dutch teams and Spurs.
Hopefully the next round to come.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure.